Have you ever heard about saying that sometimes a cigar is just a cigar? Products act as sexual symbols. Freudian applications in marketings revolve around a product's sexual symbolism. For example, some some see sports cars as substitutes for sexual fulfillment, especially in midlife crisis. And Infinity reinforced that cars can fulfill both functional and sexual gratifications. Other tactic taps into phallic symbol to attract women. Freud argued also that objects can resemble sex organs, like cigarettes, trees, or sword is for men, and tunnels is for women, has, which has been popularized through the analysis of dreams, with which he believed that they convey express desire through symbolic narrative. Moving to consumer behavior on the couch, Freudian's theory of famous psychologists proposed that adult personality largely arises from the conflict between satisfying physical need and social responsibility. Freud model also explained the dynamics of the mind in three systems. The ID seeks for immediate pleasure, the superego enforces social rules, and the ego meditates between the two. The ego strives to reconcile this fault through reality principle, seeking socially acceptable ways to fulfill the ideal desire. These unconscious conflicts influence consumer behavior. Also, the ego utilizes product symbolism to balance the ideal desire and the superego restriction, allowing customers to channel hidden their desire through products, making the product a symbol of their unattainable goals. In the 50s, motivational research adopts Freudian concepts to delve into deeper meanings of products and advertisement. Focusing on unconscious motive is it basically assumes that we channel socially unacceptable needs into acceptable outlets, including product substitutes. This approach involves in-depth interview with individual consumer as opposed to broad surveys. Trans interview can probe deeply into respondents' purchase motivations, believing that this latent motive couldn't be immediately articulated. Ernest Ditcher, a psychoanalyst, pioneered this work and conducted in-depth study on various products' influence marketing campaigns. Critics argued that this approach could be manipulative, while other questions is validity due to subjective interpretations and an overt emphasis on sexual themes. Despite the controversy, motivational research appealed to some writers for several reasons. Neo-Freudian theories. Freud worked really about future personality studies. However, studies following from or being influenced by Freud, known as Freudian Neo-Freudians, believe that personality is more shaped by interpersonal relationship than resolutions of sexual conflicts. For example, Karen Horney described people as moving towards people as compliant or wait from others as detached, and lastly, against others as aggressive. And also, Carl Jung, developing his own method of psychotherapy, consuming the cumulative experience of past generations, shape who we are today. And what is trait theory? Online matchmaking services use personality profiles to connect similar members based on quantitative measurements of personality traits, such as needs for uniqueness, introversions, extroversions, and attention to social comparisons information. Aligning ad message with a person's self-concept can be more persuasive. Another significant change in consumer behavior is frugality, where individuals practice resourceful spending. So we can sort out big five personality traits known as Yale Personality Inventory, used to measure personality traits as a set of five dimensions that form the basis of personality, including experience, conscientiousness, extroversions, agreeableness, and neuroticisms. Brand Asset Evaluator Archetypes also sorts out 12 different archetypes characteristics based on thought, substance, emotions, and energy, and later on divided into smaller categories, so-called shadow characteristics. So some problem with personality trait theory has occurred as consumer research categorize consumer based on traits, allowing market segmentations. For example, car manufacturers can tailor cars to match trait profiles for specific driver preference. The idea that consumers choose products reflecting their personality is intuitive, and marketing managers often create brand personality to attract different consumer types. However, using standard personality traits to predict product choices have shown limited success. Several factors contribute to these less than ideal results. Welcome to our new chapter, Chapter 7. Personality, lifestyle, values. So before coming to our main content, we have to know each definitions of objective. Personality. Personality refers to a person's unique psychological makeup and how it consistently influences the way a person responds to his or her environment. A consumer personality influences the way they respond to marketing stimuli. Studies also find that people do not seem exhibit stable personality, so that we will behave differently in different situations. This is merely a convenient way to categorize people. One's underlying characteristics is just one piece of the puzzle, with situational factors frequently exerting a significant influence on their behavior. Also, personality tends to be stabilized by the age of 30. Do you know that brands also have personality? Yes, it is. Brand personality is a set of traits attributed to a product as it was a person's. Many brands adopt individual or group personality traits to shape the image they want their customer to associate with them. Marketers increasingly consider brand personality as they embrace brand storytelling, which engage customers by offering a rich history and experience. For example, one popular brand storytelling genre is underdog brand biography, which resonate with consumers. Anthropomorphisms involve attributing human characteristics to objects or animals, like thinking of cartoon characters as people, so that we tend to assign gender to products, often favoring those of our gender. Social and socially rejected individuals are drawn to anthropomorphized brands, and the study found they prefer when offering commitment when they felt responsible for their isolations. Also, creating a successful brand personality is crucial for building brand loyalty, as it resonates consumers on a personal or cultural level, fostering lasting connections.
Overchange of brand image is a phenomenon of something that looks like the original, but in fact it is a critique of it. Some personality dimensions are used to sing the brand like old-fashioned, surprising, serious, and etc. Now, let's talk about lifestyle and consumer identity. Lifestyle reflects of a person's choice of how to spend time and money. These choices play a key role in defining the consumer identity. A lifestyle marketing perspective recognizes that people sort themselves into groups of the basic of the things they like to do and how they like to spend time and their income. A goal of lifestyle marketing is allow the consumer to pursue the chosen way to enjoy their life and express their social identity. Thus, people, product, and settings combine to express consumption style. Moving on to product complementary and co-branding strategies. Co-branding strategies is when marketers team up with other companies to promote for one or more items. Product complementaries occur when the symbolic meanings of a different product is related to one another. Consumers use this set of products, and we call it consumption constellation, to define, communicate, and perform social roles. Now, let's talk about psychographics. When marketers combine personality variables with knowledge of lifestyle preference, and they can focus on consumer segments, this is by persona. Psychographics involve the use of psychological, sociological, etc. to determine how the market is segmented. Psychographic study takes several different forms: a lifestyle profile, a product-specific profile, a general lifestyle segmentation, and a product-specific segmentation study. AIOS include activities, interests, and opinions. And a value is a belief that some condition is referable to its opposite. Belief system may be quite different from one to another person. There is a value system that is the ranking constitutes of the culture. It is possible to identify a general set of core values, and the process of learning the belief and behavior of the one culture is enculturation. However, the process of learning another culture is acculturation.
Core values are a set of beliefs and principles that characterize a culture and to which most of its members adhere. Core values such as freedom, youthfulness, achievement, materialism, and activity, for example, are said to characterize U.S. culture. Values can also influence consumer behaviors, as seen in the increasing emphasis on health and wellness in recent years. Other concepts that affect core values are enculturation and acculturation. Enculturation refers to the process of learning the beliefs and behaviors endorsed by one's own culture, and acculturation refers to learning a value system and behaviors of another culture. So how do values link to consumer behavior? Values play a significant role in consumer behavior as they influence the choices and preferences of individuals. Individuals who value health and wellness, for example, may be more inclined to purchase organic or natural products. Values can also shape consumer behavior by influencing importance placed on certain product attributes or characteristics. Overall, values provide a framework for individuals to evaluate and select products and services that align with their beliefs and principles. Another very important factor that affects consumer behavior is attitudes. And attitudes in consumer behavior can really influence decision making. Attitudes are lasting evaluations of people, objects, advertisements, or issues, and they play a significant role in shaping consumer behavior, as mentioned. In attitudes, there are a couple of theories that we can look at. First of all, is functional theory of attitude, which says that attitudes can serve different purposes for individuals, such as pleasure, self-concept, protection, order. Another theory is the concept of cognitive consistency, where individuals value harmony among their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and this will change them, and they will try to change these values to maintain consistency. Another theory is the theory of cognitive dissonance, which is the reverse of the previous theory, is that people try to reduce the discomfort of conflicting attitudes or behaviors by changing their attitudes or behavior. Lastly, we got self-perception theory, where people infer their attitudes based on their behaviors. All of these are theories to study the attitudes in the hopes that we can use it strategically to influence behavior, consumer behavior and attitudes. One of the model that we use to better understand attitudes is the ABC model. This is a framework that explains the components of attitudes and how they influence behavior. The model consists of 3 components: affect, behavior, and cognition. The affective component refers to the emotional or evaluative aspect of an attitude. For example, a person may have a positive affective component towards a particular brand because they associate it with happiness or satisfaction. The behavioral component refers to the action or intentions associated with an attitude. For example, a person with a positive attitude towards environmental sustainability may engage in behaviors such as recycling or using eco-friendly products. The cognitive component refers to the beliefs, thoughts, or knowledge associated with an attitude. For example, a person may have a positive cognitive component towards a certain smartphone brand because they believe it has superior features or performance. The ABC model suggests that these 3 components are interconnected and influence each other. For example, if a person's affective component towards a brand becomes negative due to a negative experience, it may lead to a change in their behavioral component, such as switching to a different brand. Understanding the ABC model of attitudes is important for marketers because it helps it identify and target specific components to influence consumer behavior. And by appealing to these components, we can shape consumer perception, preferences, and purchase decisions. So all of these theories and models to help us understand attitudes. So how do we actually form attitudes in the first place? So attitudes are shaped through various processes, including classical conditioning, instrumental conditioning, and cognitive processes that we mentioned in the previous chapter. The way that we form attitudes is by individuals developing attitudes based on their experiences, beliefs, and values. There are also a role of socialization, culture, and media can also play in the way that we form our attitudes. It's important for us to note that early experiences of social influence and other factors can also form our attitudes as well.
We link elements in 2 ways. Unit relation referring to somehow a person is connected to the attitude object, and the sentiment relation referring to where a person expresses their liking or disliking to an attitude object. And balance theory is referring to the process where they are attempt to restore balance from whether they are taking that attribute important or to keep or ignoring it or adjusting it. And celebrity endorsement is referring to when a star's popularity is expected to transfer to the product, or when a non-profit organization recruit them to discourage some type of behavior. We link elements in 2 ways. Unit relation referring to somehow a person is connected to the attitude object, and the sentiment relation referring to where a person expresses their liking or disliking to an attitude object. And balance theory is referring to the process where they are attempt to restore balance from whether they are taking that attribute important or to keep or ignoring it or adjusting it. And celebrity endorsement is referring to when a star's popularity is expected to transfer to the product, or when a non-profit organization recruit them to discourage some type of behavior. So let's move on to the next part, which is attitude models. So attitude is more complicated to measure than simply asking people how they feel about it. It would be linked onto a product or a service, and depending on individual, the importance would be less or more. Attributes behind a decision one would take to react towards an attitude object is usually influenced by other factors also, like whether his or her family and friends would approve it. So we have the attitude models, which specify different elements that may have this type of influence. So we have the first model, which is a multi-attribute attitude models. A single response from a person doesn't tell us why they have certain feelings to a product or what marketers can do to change it, but beliefs can. An attitude toward an attitude object depends on the belief that a customer hold on its attributes. So multi-attribute attitude models is about understanding the attitudes by identifying specific beliefs and combining them to revive the overall attitudes of consumer. So each have some elements which are attributes that are the characteristic of the A, and the belief, which is the cognition about the specific A, which is the extent to which the consumer perceive a brand possess a particular attribute, and the importance weight, which is the relative priority to the consumer, and it differs across individuals. We also have another model, which is fishbone model, which contain of the elements like salient belief, which is the belief about the object A, and object attribute linkage, which indicates the probability that one object has an important attributes, and the final element is evaluation of each important attributes. That we have a formula to compute the overall attitude of consumer onto an object. There are several marketing applications to the multi-attribute models. The first one is to capitalize the relative advantage. If one has a superior perception of an attribute of one brand to the other, marketers should convince the consumers that this attribute is important. And on the opposite side, if a brand has an attribute that is not considered as a value aspect, they have to emphasize the importance of this attribute. The second one is strengthen the perceived attribute linkage. We should conducting campaigns to stress a specific quality to consumers, or develop an informational campaign to improve perception if customers do not equate a brand with any certain attribute or have very little thoughts about the subject. And the third one is to add a new attribute to distinguish between our brands and our competitors, such as Cocoon conducting how their ingredients are not applied onto animals. And the final one is to influence the competitors' rating by conducting advertising strategies that have comparative content. Does attitude predict behavior? So in many cases, a person's attitude doesn't predict their behavior, and a person's attitude towards something and their actual behavior to it is reported to have very low correlation that leads researchers to question. They call the newer version of the theory of the reason action, which would have several important additions to the original one and does a better job in predicting behavior.
The third objective of this chapter is persuasion, how to marketers change attitude. Persuasion is an attempt to change attitudes, which is the most important task of marketers. There are few fundamental psychological concepts that persuade individuals, which are reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and consensus. This chapter also mentioned about communication model has been used by most of marketers, which includes a short, a message, a medium, a recipients, and a feedback. The perceiver in these traditional communication models are seen as a passive participant. However, in the dynamic and interactive world of today, when consumers have a lot more options and control over whatever message they choose to process, advocates of permission marketing claim that sending messages to customers who have already shown an interest in knowing more about a product is more successful than approaching them cold with this kind of request. Recent advancement in interactive communication emphasize how important it is to take into account the active roles that customers play in interacting with business or obtain product information. That Pinterest, a very popular social media, is one example. And this chapter also talk about the effectiveness of a sort and two important characteristics of the sort are credibility and attractiveness. This is very important that many brands today have choose their endorsement based on their attractiveness and credibility.
Source attractiveness. What is beautiful is good. Source attractiveness refers to the social value recipients attribute to a communicator. This value relates to the person's physical appearance, personality, social status, or similarity to the receiver. For example, Jenny has one herself a necklace that worth 1.8 billion Vietnam dong after a week of releasing her new videos that wearing the necklace. And we assume that good-looking people are smarter, happier than the rest of us. And this is an example of halo effect, which occur when we assume that persons who rank high on one dimension excel on another as well. And coming to the star power, celebrity as communication source, and the message are more effective when there is a logical connection between the star and the product, and the product meaning move from the manufacturer to the consumer and using the star as a vehicle. So for example, when talking about clear marketing campaign, you would suddenly think of Ronaldo, which is very fit with the product, which is very a cool person and smart, fast, a very gentleman. And about a product of that does not fit with a celebrity, you could also think of the time when Ronaldo put the 2 bottles of Coca out of the interviewing, which has caused Coca-Cola lose about 4 billion of its company. And coming to non-human endorser, so a celebrity endorsement strategy has a drawback too, like if a star motive may be suspected if they plug product that don't fit their image, or if they begin to believe that the celebrity never made a product they didn't like. And because of that, some marketers seek alternative source, including cartoon character and mascot, for example M&M. Coming to the message part, the way a message is delivered influences how people interpret it. So for example, the use of pronouns like you, we on the brand when referring to the brand can have impact on customer feeling about a product. And the most crucial factor in determining the persuasive of commercial message is, does the communication stress a unique attribute or benefit of a product. And so should we use picture or word? So one picture is worth 1,000 words, and visual are more powerful in influencing emotional response, making them effective in advertising, while factual information might be better conveyed through verbal communication. And verbal elements are more effective when are supported by related visual, especially when the audience is highly engaged. And verbal information fade from memory more quickly, so necessitating more frequent exposure to achieve the desired effect. And in contrast, visual image enable the recipient to organize information better and make it easier to recall. So overall, the choice between verbal and visual communicate depends on the context and the desired impact. So should we repeat the message? Repetition can be a double-edged sword for marketer, and repeating product information boosts consumer awareness of the brand even though the marketer says nothing new. However, too much repetition creates habituation, whereby the consumer no longer pay attention to the stimulus because of fatigue or boredom. And the two-factor perspective suggests that advertisers can address the issue of audience boredom by limiting the exposure per repetition and introducing slight variations. So how do we structure the argument? Many marketing messages are like debate or trial. In a study, researchers shows different magazine advertisements to a total of more than 100 participants to measure the reaction to different levels of message, and the result is that ads that were less assertive were more effective, and under the right circumstances, refutational arguments that first raise a negative issue and then diminish it can be quite effective, and this approach increased search credibility because it reduced reporting bias. This means that receivers assume the source had carefully considered both sides of the argument. Two-side strategy appear to be most effective when the audience is well educated and does not yet develop loyalty to a product, because possible backward may raise doubt unnecessarily. Researchers indicate that two-side ads can be quite effective, but yet marketers rarely use them. So should we compare our product to our competitors? Comparative marketing is a marketing strategy in which a company product or service is presented as superior when compared to competitors, and recent evidence indicate that under some conditions this type of presentation does result in more informed decision making. And although some comparative ads result in desired attitude change, they may also be lower believability and stir up search degradation. And for example, in some cultures such as Asia, comparative market advertising is rare because people find such a controversial approach offensive.
Reality engineering occurs when marketers appropriate elements of popular cultures and use them as promotional vehicles. The grassroots efforts we often witness today to capture our attentions epitomize guerrilla marketing, promotional strategies that use unconventional means and venues to encourage word of mouth about products. These campaigns often recruit legions of real customers who agree to engage in some kind of street theaters or perhaps place messages in unconventional locations, such as a public restroom or on city sidewalks, to get in face of media straightway consumers. Reality engineers have many tools in their disposal. They blend products in movies, pump sense into office and store, attach movie monitors in the back of taxi cabs, buy advertised space on police patrol cars, or film fake documentaries. Product placement is the insertion of real products in fictional movies, TV shows, books, or plays. Many types of products play starring or at least supporting roles in our cultures. The most visible brands in recent years include Dell, Samsung, Apple, Chevrolet, and Ray-Ban. product placement is not by means a casual process. Several firms specialize in arranging these appearances. If they are lucky, they manage to do it on the cheap when they get client product noticed by prop master who work on the show. Some researchers claim that product placements as consumer decisions making because the familiarity of this prop creates a sense of cultural belonging while they generate feelings of emotional security. Another study found that placement consistent with the show's plot do enhance brand attitudes, but incongruent placements that aren't consistent with the plot affect brand attitudes negatively because they seem out of play. The future is bright for gaming, where online games merge with interactive advertisements that let companies target specific type of consumer. These placements can be short exposures such as a billboard that appears around racetrack, or they can take a form of branded entertainment and integrate the brand directly into the actions. Plinking is the act of embedding a product or service link in a video. So which is better, to appeal to the head or to the heart? The answer often depends on the nature of product and the type of relationship consumer have with it. These open-ended measures assess cognitive response and may penalize feeling as because the reactions are not easy to articulate. So does sex work? In one survey, an overwhelming percent of respondents said that sexual imagery in a product advertisement make them less likely to buy it. Sexual appeals appear to be ineffective when marketers use them merely as a trick to grab attention. They do, however, appear to work when the product is itself related to sex. According to human evolutionary theory, men tend to be permed when take advantage of sexual opportunity whenever they are reasonably available as relationship with multiple partners maximize the likelihood that their genes will be passed on. One study found that recognition score for humorous liquor advertisement were better than average. However, the verdict is mixed as to whether humors affect record or product attitudes in a significant way. One reason silly advertisements may shift opinions is that they provide a source of distractions. Fear appeals advertise the negative consequences that can occur unless the consumer changes a behavior or an attitude. These type of messages are fairly common in advertising, although they are more common in social marketing contexts in which organizations encourage people to convert to a healthier lifestyle by quitting smoking, using contraceptives, or relying on a designated driver. Most research on this topic indicates that these negative messages are more effective when the advertiser uses only a moderate threat and when the advertiser presents a solution to the problem. Otherwise, consumers will turn on the advertise because they can do nothing to slow or avoid the threat. Advertising creative rely on well-known literary devices to communicate this meaning. A metaphor places two dissimilar objects into a close relationship such as A is B, whereas a simile compares two objects, A is like B. A and B, however dissimilar, share some quality that the metaphor highlights. Metaphors allow the marketer to apply meaningful images to everyday events. Resonance is another type of literary device advertisers briefly use. It is a form of presentations that combine a play on word or with relevant pictures, whereas metaphors substitute one meaning for another by connecting two things that are in some way similar. Resonance employs an element that has a double meaning, such as a pun, in which two words sound similar but have different meaning. Should we worry more about what we say, how we say it, and who say it? The answer is depend. As we saw in Chapter 5, consumer level of involvement determines which cognitive process will activate when we receive a message. The elaboration's likelihood model, ELM, assumes that under conditions of high involvement, we take the central route to persuasions. Under conditions of low involvement, we take a peripheral route instead. According to the ELM, we focus on the argument the marketer presents and generate cognitive response to this content. If people generate counter arguments in response to a message, it's less likely that we yield to the message, whereas if they generate further supporting arguments, it is more likely they will comply behavior. The central route to persuasions involves the standard hierarchy of effect we discussed earlier in this chapter. The implications that the message factors such as the quality of argument and advertising presents will determine attitude change. We are likely to use other cues to decide how to react to the message. These cues include the product, package, the attractiveness of the source, or the context in which the message appears. We call source of information in strangers to the actual message period cues because they surround the actual message. The period route to persuasions highlight the paradox of low involvement, where we don't care much about the product, the way it's presented increases in importance. In other words, especially when a consumer engages in emotional or behavioral decisions making, these informational cues become more important than when he or she performs cognitive decisions making. As a result, he or she looks more carefully at the product performance or other objective attributes. It is important to remember, however, that the same communications variable can be both a central and a period cue, depending on its relation to the attitude object.